Welcome to Things You Don't Know. Today, I am joined with my colleague in arms, so to speak, Chandler Foster, who's going to try and keep me on track and try and keep me from getting too technical.
Gonna try to, Dr. Weaver. Gonna try to. Although I'm not so sure I may not get too technical myself here.
Okay.
Yeah, because today, Dr. Weaver, we're talking about drones, where they came from, who actually invented the first ones, why they've exploded in popularity, and what's happening right now today that's reshaping drone technology in real time.
Yeah. Chandler, you bring up some good points. And yeah, it's kind of an interesting and timely topic. When most people hear drone, they picture a small quadcopter, four rotors, a camera, maybe somebody filming a wedding or a real estate listing. But drone really means something much broader. It is an unmanned aircraft system, not just the flying machine. It's also the controller, the software, the communication link, and the rules that govern it.
And those rules, well, they matter, Dr. Weaver, because drones are one of those technologies that moved from military to consumer life quite quickly, I would say. We're still catching up as a society, technically, legally, and ethically.
Yeah, some interesting questions here. So let's start with a question that sounds kind of simple, but really isn't. Who invented drones? What do you think, Chandler?
Well, if you ask 10 people who invented the drone, interestingly enough, you'll get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
Some people will point to modern companies. Others will go all the way back to early radio control experiments.
But the truth is, the drone wasn't invented once. When what we call drones are the result of several breakthroughs, radio control, autopilots, and gyroscopes, miniaturized electronics, GPS, lightweight batteries, and later software that stabilizes the flight.
But if we're talking about early unmanned aircraft, pilotless aircraft, World War One is where you see some of the first serious attempts.
Whoa! One important milestone is the British aerial target, associated with radio control work led by Dr. Archibald Lowe. The Imperial War Museum's notes that it was an early radio controlled aircraft and describes tests, I get this, in 1917, where it actually flew under control.
So, remote control, early 1900s, military motivation, and on the American side, you get the Kettering Aerial Torpedo, nicknamed the Bug. It's basically an earlier unmanned aircraft designed to hit a target at a set distance, a forerunner conceptually now called a cruise missile. The U.S. Air Force Museum describes it as an unmanned aerial torpedo invented in 1917.
Yeah, that part is important psychologically. From the beginning, unmanned aircraft wasn't invented as toys. They were invented as a way to project force without risking a pilot.
Well, Dr. Weaver, exactly where does the word drone come from?
Good question. It's widely tied to target drones, especially the British Queen Bee, which was a radio-controlled aircraft used for training. Sources discussing early target drones often connect Queen Bee to the later popularization of the word drone.
So, early drones weren't camera platforms, they were test targets, training aids, or weapons concepts. Then, the technology continues through the 20th century.
And continues to today. You know, over time, you get unmanned aircraft used for reconnaissance, surveillance, and target practice. Institutions like the Smithsonian have covered the evolution of drones, including the rise of dedicated target drones and later military UAV programs.
But the average person didn't really meet drones until two things happened. The hardware got cheap and small, and the software got smart.
Yes, indeedy. Now, if you've ever flown a quadcopter and thought, this thing just hangs in the air, that's not magic. That's sensor fusion. Accelerometers, gyros, barometers, GPS, plus algorithms that stabilize the craft hundreds of times per second.
And cameras got lighter, batteries got better, and suddenly drones weren't just for militaries or research labs. They became a consumer product.
Yes, indeed, a consumer product. And in the rise of dominant consumer manufacturers, DJI being the biggest name at this point, you can see why drones became culturally normal. Talking about photography, hobby flying, content creation, all of those things kind of add up.
Yes, they can. Now, Dr. Weaver, I'd like to get into some recent advancements now. Now, if somebody hasn't paid attention since, oh, I don't know, 2018, then they might think that drone progress is just a better camera, longer battery. But what's changed recently is a little bit deeper than that. Wouldn't you say, Dr. Weaver?
Oh, I'd say pretty much deeper than that. The big shifts are autonomy and resilience, navigation that handles signal loss better, obstacle avoidance, signal loss, really a big improvement there. The other thing is smarter targeting for industrial inspection and the emerging reality that drones increasingly operate in contested environments, meaning environments with jamming, spoofing, and countermeasures.
And now this right here, well, this is where the Ukraine comes in. Whatever someone's politics are, now that's a whole nother story for a whole another time. It doesn't matter here. But whatever that is, the war has become one of the most intense real world accelerators of drone innovation in modern history. Analysts describe rapid cycles of adaptation, new drone types, new countermeasures, then new adaptations again.
You got it. And it's not only aerial drones either. The Ukraine has developed and used uncrewed surface vessels and naval drones to strike or threaten naval assets, which has forced countermeasures and changed naval behavior in the region. And, I got to say, you say that politics don't matter, but, I got to say that I personally, I support Ukraine. Ukraine.
Personally, I do as well. And I have to agree with you on all those things, Dr. Weaver. And you also see that scale Reporting and analysis in the last year have all pointed to mass production goals in the drone-focused defense economy. Millions of drones have been discussed in public statements and budget allocations, and international interest in battlefield proven drone systems.
It's almost like science fiction kind of thing if you think about it, don't you? You know what I mean, Chandler?
I know exactly what you mean, Dr. Weaver.
Like fight the battles without even a person being there and that sort of thing.
Yeah, kind of a humanless battle with all drones.
Yeah. Here,
Futuristic, if you will.
yes, indeed. Here's the careful point we want to make for listeners. We're discussing this at the level of history and societal impact, not tactics. But it's still crucial to understand what that conflict has demonstrated. Drones have shifted from occasional tools into constant presence, surveillance, strike capability, and psychological pressure also.
And that psychological pressure that you mentioned matters, Dr. Weaver. A drone can change behavior even when it isn't firing because it changes what people think is safe, what they think is visible, and what they think can reach them.
And some of the advancements are just quite amazing. Like it used to be that if you had a drone coming, you could hear it real easily. Now they have quiet technology too, so you can't even hear them. So, yeah. Meanwhile, counter drone technologies like jamming, detection, interceptors are developing right alongside drones because every advantage creates demand for a defense, right?
That's exactly right, Dr. Weaver. But now let's pull back from war for a bit.
Okay.
Okay, drones became popular because they're useful in a lot of other peaceful, everyday ways.
Yes, indeedy. And if you've gone to the movies or you've seen a movie on TV or anything like that, you've witnessed it undoubtedly. So we start with imaging. Why do I say that? Because photography, filmmaking, and journalism have all been impacted. But then it also expands to mapping and surveying, like construction sites, land management, archaeological surveys, insurance assessments, like, for example, after storms.
And agriculture is huge too, Dr. Weaver, like monitoring crops with specialized sensors, precision mapping, even targeted spraying in certain contexts.
Yes, indeed. Public safety is a major category also. Things like search and rescue missions, wildfire reconnaissance, disaster response. Universities and extension programs have documented wide-ranging practical use cases like inspection, emergency assessment, and locating missing people. Kind of important stuff.
That is, Dr. Weaver, and I want to expand that a little bit because search and rescue can, well, it can sound quite vague until you picture what's actually happening. A drone can get eyes on a scene in minutes when roads are blocked, when it's too dangerous for a helicopter to fly low, and when you don't want to send a person into a structurally damaged building.
Yes, exactly. In rescue operations, drones often do three simple but very powerful things. First, they see what humans cannot see from the ground, like the roof line of a collapsed or collapsing structure, the far side of floodwaters, or a trail that disappears into dense brush. Second, they see in different kinds of light, What do I mean? Like thermal imaging to detect body heat at night, or specialized sensors that can help distinguish terrain features. Third, they create fast maps so responders can plan routes, identify hazards, and keep track of who searched where.
And there's also the deliver something small but life-changing part of rescue. Some drones can drop a flotation device to someone in open water, bring a radio or phone to someone who's trapped, or deliver basic medical supplies when every minute matters.
Yeah, there are even programs that have experimented with drones transporting items like automated external defibrillators, AEDs, because in cardiac arrest, time is the difference between life and death. A drone cannot replace an ambulance yet, but it can sometimes shorten the time to help window before professionals arrive.
And there's a psychological layer to this too. In a disaster, people are scared, disoriented, and they may be trapped. A drone can be a form of contact. Someone sees you, someone's coming. You're not invisible, and you may actually get through this.
Now let's move to something that sounds like science fiction but is increasingly real. Drones that can recognize faces, or at least attempt to.
Now, this is where we should be very precise with language. There's detecting a person, tracking a person, and identifying a person. Detecting might mean that the drone's camera and software can tell that the shape is a human. Tracking means that it can follow that person through a scene. Now, identifying means that it's matching an actual face to a known identity, like comparing an image to a database.
And the reason the distinction matters is that the ethical risk climbs as you move along the chain. Person detection for rescue, finding a missing hiker, sounds broadly beneficial. Face identification can become a surveillance tool very quickly, especially if it's tied to law enforcement databases or is used without public consent.
But in a rescue context, you can see why people are tempted by it. Imagine a missing person alert with a photo. Some systems could, in theory, scan crowds or search footage for a match. In the best case, it helps locate someone who's vulnerable, lost, injured, or in danger.
In the worst case, it misidentifies someone. And misidentification isn't just a technical glitch, it can become a real world harm, a wrongful stop, a wrongful accusation, or a dangerous escalation. Facial recognition accuracy varies across conditions like lighting, camera angle, distance, motion blur, and it can be uneven across different demographic groups depending on how the system was trained.
And the drone adds another complication. Aerial angles aren't the same as a straight on selfie. People wear hats, masks, sunglasses, even. The drone is moving, the target is moving. The confidence score might be low, but if the system is used carelessly, it can still be treated like it's certain.
So, listeners should hold two thoughts at once. One, Drones plus AI can help find people, especially in time-critical emergencies. Two, drones plus AI can become airborne biometric surveillance. And that's a serious societal choice, not just a gadget feature.
And while we're talking drones everywhere, we have to include delivery drones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like talking about delivery drones because they're actually helpful in more ways than one, I would say. Wouldn't you, Dr. Weaver?
Well, yeah. What kind of things do they deliver?
Well, they deliver food and other goods. Well, because that's one of the clearest examples of drones shifting from hobby objects to infrastructure.
Yeah. Delivery drones are basically trying to solve a specific problem, the last mile, if you will.
Yeah.
Getting, getting something from a warehouse or store to your front door is often the most expensive and time-consuming part of delivery. Drones promise speed for light packages like meals, some groceries, prescriptions, medical supplies, small consumer items, things like that.
Yeah. The best use case is usually something that's small, time sensitive, and not easy to reach quickly by car. A rural area, an island, a place with traffic bottlenecks, or a medical situation where minutes matter, like sending blood products or urgent medication between facilities.
Yeah. Food delivery is the headline people remember because it's concrete. Hey, a drone brought me my dinner. But the deeper story is logistics. Drones require safe routes, reliable navigation, clear rules about flying over people and property, procedures for drop off, and systems that prevent collisions. All of those things have to be taken into consideration, and they're sensitive to weather, payload weight, and battery limits, too.
Plus the social issues like noise, privacy, who gets service first, and what happens when you turn the sky into a delivery lane?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because see, even when the drone is delivering a sandwich, it's still a flying machine above neighborhoods.
So drones became popular because they're a kind of Swiss Army knife. They're a camera, a platform, a mapping tool, an inspector, a rescue aid, and maybe a delivery runner. So now, the moment we say drones, the next sentence should be and regulations, because your ability to fly depends on where you live and what you're doing.
Let's do the US first, since most of our listeners are here. Wouldn't you say, Dr. Weaver?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, if you're flying for work or business, paid jobs or commercial shoots, inspections, then you generally fall under FAA Part 107. And the FAA explains that you need a remote pilot certificate or direct supervision by someone who has it.
On the other hand, for recreational flying, the FAA has a separate framework, including safety knowledge requirements like trust and rules about registration and where you may fly.
Registration in the US, the FAA says that drones must be registered except those at or under 0.55 pounds or 250 grams when flown purely recreationally under the recreational exception.
And there's remote ID. often described as a digital license plate. The FAA states that drones requiring registration must operate in accordance with remote ID rules, with the key compliance date being September 16th, 2023, and later reinforcement milestones too.
Now, if you're in Europe, the regulatory structure is different. EASA uses risk categories: open, specific, certified, and open covers most low risk leisure flying with subcategories and registration and training requirements depending on the drone and operation.
Now, quick reminder here. We're not, I repeat, we are not giving legal advice here. Always check your local aviation authority because rules change and local restrictions matter, especially around airports, crowds, and sensitive infrastructure.
And for delivery and advanced rescue operations, a lot of the regulatory friction is about operating beyond visual line of sight, BBLOS. It's one thing to fly a drone where you can see it in a park, but it's another to run a delivery route or a long search pattern where the drone is far away, potentially sharing airspace with other aircraft and potentially flying near people.
Yeah, you're right. And that's why the future of delivery isn't only about the drone itself. It's about airspace integration, traffic management for drones, reliability standards, and accountability when something goes wrong.
Absolutely, Dr. Weaver. Now, drones feel common now, but it helps to quantify it. The FAA itself publishes material indicating the drone population in U.S. airspace has increased significantly over the last decade, and it runs surveys to characterize drone activity in the national airspace system.
That's correct. And from an economics standpoint, market research firms project very strong growth in the global drone market. Numbers vary by methodology and definitions, but the consistent story is drones are a major and expanding industry.
Well, it's not really a niche anymore, Dr. Weaver. It's a mainstream technology category. Like smartphones were once new and then suddenly they became assumed.
Yeah, and you really miss them when they're gone.
Oh, yes. Because it's like a lifeline.
It is. And you can feel that shift in the kinds of things people now consider normal. Drones at weddings. Yeah, people use them a lot, take pictures and da da da. Drones inspecting bridges. Yeah. Drones assisting firefighters. Drones used by small town police departments and pilot programs exploring delivery of everyday goods. So, the big questions of safety, privacy, and what may be coming in the next decade is something we should get to. So, first, let's look at societal questions. Drones bring benefits, efficiency, access, safety in dangerous environments, but they also bring concerns, privacy, nuanced flights, safety risks, and the risks of misuse.
And the more capable drones become, the more the public expects guardrails, both technical and legal. That's where remote ID, training requirements, and airspace integration efforts come in.
Yeah. So let's put the facial recognition issue right here because it's a perfect example of capability racing ahead of norms. A camera drone by itself raises privacy questions like, am I being recorded? Where is the footage going? And how long is it being stored? Add facial recognition, and the question changes. Am I being identified, tracked, or scored?
And it's not just face recognition, it's biometrics in the sky, more generally, gait recognition, body shape tracking, re identification across cameras, and AI that labels behavior as suspicious, even if the technology is marketed as safety or efficiency. It can slide in to a surveillance posture if there aren't strong rules and transparent policies.
Yeah. The psychological issue is that people behave differently when they feel watched. And a drone can be uniquely unsettling because it's not just a camera, it's a camera that moves, hovers, follows, and appears without warning. If communities don't have clear limits and accountability, you can create a low grade feeling of public anxiety.
But we should also acknowledge the other side, also, Dr. Weaver. In rescue operations, faster detection can be life saving.
Yes.
The ethical challenge is building systems that maximize rescue benefits while minimizing surveillance harms. That's not a technical question alone. That is governance. Who can deploy these systems? Under what conditions? With what oversight? With what transparency? And with what consequences for misuse?
Now let's zoom out to delivery. The next decade likely brings more routine drones, inspection drones, emergency response drones, maybe more delivery in limited corridors, plus more counter drone systems around public events and critical infrastructure.
Absolutely, Dr. Weaver. And delivery is where the public will really feel the trade-offs. Convenience is real, but so are noise concerns, safety concerns, and fairness questions. Like, will rural communities get medical benefits first? Or will wealthy neighborhoods get hot food faster? Will the sky become cluttered? Will there be designated corridors that concentrate noise over certain areas?
And culturally, drones are becoming like cameras, a tool. But tools change society when they become widespread. The question is whether we shape the norms consciously or whether we just kind of let them happen by accident. Well, we could go on. There's a lot more to be said. But that, I think we'll leave this as the end of the episode on drones. Their early origins in World War I experimentation, their evolution through military and industrial use, their explosion into consumer life, and the way recent events, especially in Ukraine, have accelerated innovation.
And we expanded the everyday side too. How drones show up in rescue, how AI can help detect and sometimes identify people, and why delivery drones are about much more than novelty. They're a test of how we manage new infrastructure in shared public space.
Hey, if you enjoyed this one, come on back for the next episode. If you got drone experience, like as a hobbyist, professional, or just strong opinions, drop a comment. We do read them and we appreciate them too.
Yes, we do. And if you're listening and thinking, Well, I love the rescue potential, but I'm worried about surveillance. Well, that is a pretty valid reaction. The technology isn't destiny, rules, and norms matter.
Like the episode, subscribe, and share it with someone who still thinks drones are just toys. Until next time, I'm signing off for Chandler and myself. Have a good one. Bye.